Hi everyone, welcome to the quarterfinal of this wonderful tournament. My name is Akimedes and I'll be the chair for this particular round. First, congratulations on making it this far. You've been so impressive. I'll now invite the panel to introduce themselves. Salim,
Hi everyone, I'm Salim and I'll be your panel. All the best of luck.
thank you very much. A couple of ground rules. So, normal WSDC apply 8 minutes for main speeches, 4 minutes for reply speeches. QIs are strongly encouraged, though you actually get to reject within the first and then the 7th minute only. Kindly do time yourselves as I'll also be timing you. I'm just going to read the motion one time again, and then we are going to start the debate. So the motion for year 16 quarterfinals reads, this house regrets the narrative that individuals should see the best in others. This is the motion. I invite the Prime Minister to begin the debate. Here.
I'm a preparation first speaker, and I will take your point verbally, not in the chat, please. And my pronoun is she or her. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. By being forced to see good points of others, many people are likely to get very big damage on your mental health. So that's why we strongly propose this motion. 3 arguments from proportion side. First, about inferiority, and the second about bad for relationship. Third point is about criminals. So, but before moving the 2 setups, first, what is the meaning of this narrative? This narrative means that all of the people all of the people are forced to see the best points of others. For example, the people is very kind, the people is very smart like this. They are forced to see those kind of people. So in this narrative, under the narrative, people cannot say any bad things of theirs, of the other people's. And secondary, about counter narrative. So on the other side of the house, there's spread narrative that you have to see all points of others equally. And also you can choose don't see, if you get mental burden so much, you can choose to not watch the other people's good points. So given that, I want to explain our first and second point one by one. First, about inferiority. On their side of the house, so this means with this narrative, many people are highly likely to get inferiority. It is because they have to see the good points of others. Because they will compare myself to others, they are highly likely to get many mental burden from it. For example, if your friend is very smart, but the people is little mean, in these cases, you have to focus on only about the friend is very smart. If you're not so smart, you will compare yourself to others and you will get very inferiority, right? Because I cannot study anywhere, but the friends can do like this. So in these cases, because they are forced to focus on only those kind of smart point or like good points, people are highly likely to get inferiority in these cases. However, on the other hand, on our side, because there is no such kind of narrative that is forced to see very good points of others, they can decrease your mental burden. Because first of all, they are try to see also bad points. If you by comparing yourself to others and they get mental burden too much, they can choose to see zero bad points. Like others that before example, you can focus on like the friends is literally mean. So I don't have to be like care about the friends so much like this. So by seeing those kind of bad points, you can decrease your mental burden. And secondary, you can choose so that means because you can have more wider choices to see other people, you are highly likely to decrease your mental burden, which means inferiority. It is very important situation, and getting inferiority is very serious problem for many people. It is because by getting inferiority, many people are likely to get mental burden, like lose confidence on yourself, and serious cases, because they lose any confidence to yourself, they will lose any incentive to do anything. Because they lose incentive, they fear that even I try something, I cannot achieve anything like this. So losing confidence or losing incentive is very serious for their ability. And also, because those kind of mental burden are accumulated in the long term, the more people have to be suffer in the long term from very big mental burden. So it is very serious, and to decrease those kind of burden, we strongly propose. So next, I want to explain our second point about path for relationship. Also, this narrative will make very big harm to the relationship. It is because with this narrative, what does opposition side look like? People are highly likely to think that even if I do very bad things, like saying very bad words to others, even do those kind of bad things, if I show good points to others, it's okay like this. So this means people are highly likely to be not careful about your behavior. It is very serious, right? Because other people will also notice those kind of bad points of others, even there's a narrative. But in this cases, because this narrative, they cannot say any true feeling to the people, to like other people. They cannot talk about it with any people. So they have to keep such kind of bad fearing to others, and you have to keep those kind of fearing in the long term, and those kind of mental burden will be accumulated too. So this means also about relationship, many people have to be suffered because of this narrative. But on that point, on our side, those kind of situations are low likely to be happen because two reasons. First, in the first place, people will also try not to show those kind of bad points, because in this narrative, so on our side, people will also focus on their other people's bad points. So this means more people are highly likely to hide also their bad points. So this means in the first place, those kind of situations that will give very bad feeling to others are low likely to happen. So in the first place, the trouble will be decreased on our side, and secondly, about other people can talk about it with someone. And because there's no narrative, that you don't have to say any bad things you cannot say any bad points of others. On our side, because there's no narrative that you cannot say any bad things of others, you can talk about your true feeling of the people with someone, with your friends. You can talk about my boy, my cousin is very mean, like this. So because you can talk about your things, those kind of things to other people, you can decrease your mental burden by doing those kind of things. It is very important situation too, because those kind of mental burden is accumulated in a long term. Like for example, by meeting those kind of people again and again, you have to get those kind of mental burden in again and again, and you cannot decrease any those kind of stress because you cannot talk with any people. So this means because those kind of mental burden accumulated, how likely to accumulate on their side of the house more and more, people have to be suffer very much. People have to be suffer very much. It is very serious cases, right? Many people have to be suffer, and many people will get in stress, and you can decrease. You cannot have any way to decrease those kind of stress. So about relationship, we think that only focusing on good points give very big harm to others. Also, keeping good relationship is very important to enjoy your life, and also to enjoy your life, and also about working places. Cooperate is very important. To cooperation, keeping good relationship is very important. But because of that, they are low likely to make those kind of good situation for the people. So about the relationship and also about the individually, we strongly propose this motion.
Thank you, Speaker, for those wonderful remarks. I would invite the leader of opposition.
Can I have a few seconds to organize my notes?
That's fine.
Just to confirm that I'm both audible and visible.
Yes, you are. Ready when you are.
My speech will begin in 3, 2, 1. So in my speech, I will be providing a few rebuttals, doing some framing, and providing an argument about why our side is better for society, and lastly, doing some weighing. So first, some rebuttals, which a lot will be integrated. So proposition says that on our side, we're going to compare ourselves to others. But this is false, because when you learn to see the best in others, you see the best in yourself. When you naturally have like an optimistic mindset, you'll be optimistic towards yourself. If you see that someone is smart, someone might think that you're very determined. This doesn't lead to inferiority, as everybody is adopting the narrative. But if we take the premise that they set, they still have to claim the probability of this, as we think that people on our side, when everyone sees the good in people, this promotes a safe environment for growth and overall leads to a lot more happiness, because we are accepting everyone despite whatever background or whatever challenges that they faced before. They also say that when you talk about, like, you can talk about the bad parts of people, but they're essentially saying that talking bad about people will make you feel good, and that's correct. We think that this is completely false, because this is so much worse for the people that like you're talking bad about. Because even if you think that somebody has no potential in work, if you say that to them, then they have a fixed mindset, and you're not letting any room for them to be able to grow. And ultimately, they feel a lot more cut off to society, and this just creates a vicious cycle, which I will analyze later. We have a more positive scale of impact, because when people talk good about other people, everyone gets complimented. People who are historically doubted by others, they feel better. We create a society with happiness, which we think is the main burden that we prove and why we should win. So some framing. Our stance is that we're not saying that we're going to ignore the bad of people, but we're going to see the nuance. We won't blindly hate someone, but we will understand that they're human beings who still deserve empathy. Our side takes place in everyday interactions and relationships, or happening in like a professional setting, especially when this narrative largely applies to like less senior employees of companies, etc., which are the most common instances that this will happen. So what do we think seeing the best in people look like? We think, one, giving people the benefit of the doubt in everyday interactions. We choose to focus on an individual's strength and potential rather than what they might be lacking, which looks like encouraging forgiveness and understanding when other people making mistakes, and always assuming that they have good intentions. Two, having more social and community engagement. We're basically engaging with community members with trust and optimism. So we support everyone, and like the belief that everyone has something good to contribute. And we advocate for inclusive practices that assume that everyone is able to impact society. So what do we think this does? We think that this makes the individual feel that they are welcome and that they belong and that they have other people supporting them. So as opposed to seeing your coworker as someone really useless, you see that, okay, they are trying their best. We can make this work. We can continue to encourage them so that they actually feel that people are beside them and that they have the motivation to work harder. So the burden in this debate is that we have to prove why society is better off when good parts of individuals are highlighted. Which leads me to my first argument about how this is better for society. But before I move on, I'll take a POI, if there's any. No engagement, okay? Firstly, our side is better for society. So I think it's important to characterize those people who take place in this debate. So there are people who might have come from a bad background because of negative influences. They don't have many people helping them. They could have just came out of rehab, etc. So they commit crimes or they do bad things because they think that society is against them and that they are angry. They think that because like society thinks that the person is not worth helping because they feel that they're inherently bad. This creates a vicious cycle that nobody is helping them. This leads to them struggling a lot more, which is problematic because they keep feeling that they are alone. They feel that nobody cares about them, that nobody wants to support them. They do more bad and are ultimately cut off from society, which we don't think this is how society should like help people and like accept people. And another stakeholder are like people of different classes. So there could be someone who sees the rich and think that they don't work hard. It's all about nepotism, etc. Or they see the poor and they think that they don't work hard, which is why they're poor. On our side, people see a rich person as a person and see past their social economic status and see who they are as a person, and they see their personality. So What happens on prop side is that society is so focused on the negative parts of a person, having a fixed mindset that because of what they did in the past, they cannot change. What this does to them is to tell them that to tell like those individuals that they're never enough because of their background, that they're never going to be accepted into society, which, as I've said before, cuts them off. So the method for the change on our side is that when you see the best in people, people are a lot more accepting of that person. They see past other things. For example, their appearance, and those people end up feeling safer as they're in a safe place. They're able to make connections that they otherwise wouldn't be able to make because of the assumptions made against them. So what does this lead to? We think that this creates like more positive interactions because by focusing on the good in others, individuals are going to like approach relationships with kindness, which fosters like a more positive relationship and creates a social network that those people wouldn't be able to have otherwise. We think that we have more trust on our side as we have like a more trusting attitude, which reduces like fear and skepticism in whatever interaction and relationship that you have, which leads to more meaningful connections and gives everybody a sense of belonging, which will link to happiness, which I will analyze later why this is so important to society. And C, we believe that we have better collaboration because when team members assume that their colleagues are trying and are committed, they will collaborate effectively, such as sharing like ideas openly and working towards the common goals that they have. Leaders who see the best in employees are going to inspire like more like high performance and loyalty. And those people work harder because they feel that people believe that they have a chance to work hard despite their background. So this creates a culture where the default assumption is that everybody is trying their best, which leads to a more positive work environment. Because when a boss tells their workers, you're working very hard, good job, they feel like, oh, the boss believes in me, I can achieve this. This reduces like any workplace conflicts and brings like a culture of just respect and support inside the workplace. Which we think that all of this leads to more growth as this fosters an environment where everybody is like encouraged to like support people, to encourage them, to be sympathetic towards them, and they see the potential rather than focusing on the skills gap. So on proposition side, what happens is that when people keep showing the bad points about someone, this makes them lose hope from the start. They have a fixed mindset and do not have any hope for changing the future. And you cannot collaborate like this and just makes society a lot worse. All this leads to increased happiness, which is so important for society because when individuals feel that they belong in a society because of the kindness that they've been given, they feel that they actually have the potential to do good. It's just better for their mental health as they feel a lot safer and that they're able to effectively collaborate as they're able to see who the people are on the inside, which brings more trust between different parties and quickly some weighing. So what happens on prop is that you see people who are critical of others and always have doubts about their intentions. But that one reduces individual happiness because they think that nobody trusts them because of their birth lottery or whatever background they have. They end up feeling more unhappy, which creates tension within society. 2, this undermines interpersonal relationships as it's a lot harder to create long-lasting relationships when you are constantly doubting people. 3, in a professional workplace setting, as we've said before, this creates a hostile work environment where people they don't feel supported, they don't feel that they're able to work productively, and like work teams, they need to have a strong bond to be able to share ideas and collaborate. In conclusion, never been prouder to oppose.
Thank you, Speaker, for those wonderful remarks. I'll invite Deputy Prime Minister. Here.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Ready when you are.
So I'm the second speaker from the proposition side, and I would like verbal POIs, and my pronoun is she or her. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. In the opposite side of the world, people cannot say the bad parts of others. Even if you're hurt because of other people being mean to you, you cannot say that to somebody because you have to see the best part of that person. You have to like remind what that person did good to you. And you have to ignore like that you are being hurt of that person, hurt because of that person, and so on. In their part of the world, the relationship will be much worse because you have dissatisfaction towards other people without being able to say about it. And you will always have the fear of the other person being like having a dissatisfaction towards you, and you are not being able to know that because nobody tells that to you. So the relationship is going to be much worse on opposition side of the world, and that is why we're so proud to propose 3 things in my speech. Firstly, rebuttal, secondly, reconstruction, and thirdly, argumentation. Firstly, on rebuttal. 2 rebuttals to their first point. Firstly, they say that people who do bad things are automatically cut off from society. However, this is not true because we, on our side of the world, we see both parts of the person equally, and they're thinking we only see the negative part of people and don't give them any chance to grow. However, this is not true because we also see the good parts of that person, and the only thing that we're saying is that we shouldn't focus too much on the good part, and we also need to think the bad parts. For example, if there is a criminal who do bad things, of course we have to blame them for their bad actions, not just to give them a chance to grow. So because we see both of those things equally, we are good. And secondly, second response is that this cutting off from society is rather bad on opposition side of the world because we cannot say blame other people from their bad parts of the society, bad parts of their characteristic. We automatically cut off them from the society because we cannot blame them. We don't want to interact with them anymore, and those criminals are rather cut off from the society on opposition side of the world. The second rebuttal is that they say that people can cooperate better on their side of the world. However, 2 responses to this. Firstly, this is not true because cooperation, telling each other the bad points of them is really important because if you're wanting to cooperate with that person, you need to see your bad points in cooperating in that person because you tell each other how you're doing bad in those points. You can grow each other, and you can have a better cooperation on proposition side of the world. And secondly, this is not important because even if you cannot cooperate on proposition side of the world, when people cannot cooperate, we're giving people more capacity to accept not being able to cooperate with that person. So on opposition side of the world, they're saying that because we have to see the good parts of people, because we have to see the good parts of people, you can automatically cooperate with each other and you can be having a good relationship with each other. We believe that is not true because always in the world there are some people who doesn't have a good match with you, and you don't have you simply don't have a good relation with that person. And in those situations, on proposition side of the world, we can accept those situations better because on the opposition side of the world, when you can't cooperate with that person, you blame yourself for not being able to see the best part in others, and you blame yourself for not being able to cooperate. However, on proposition side of the world, if you simply cannot cooperate with that person, you can think that that person had maybe some bad point in cooperating and so on. So the delta here is that on proposition side of the world, even if you cannot cooperate, you have some room for acceptance. So secondly, onto reconstruction, 2 things. Firstly, they said that people will never compare yourself to others on opposition side of the world. However, comparing others will happen on both sides of the world, and on opposition side of the world it will be rather bad because on opposition side of the world you only see focus on the good parts in other people, which makes you think that all of the people in the society are really good and really good doing really good things. So on opposition side of the world you cannot accept the bad parts of yourself. On both sides of the world you're going to know that you have a bad parts, your bad points. So the delta here is that on proposition side of the world we can accept those bad points because you can know that other people also have the bad points. So the inferiority will be rather good on proposition side of the world. And the second thing is that about human relation, it will be better on prop side because as I explained to you before, we can also tell each other the bad parts. So what happens on opposition side of the world in human relation, if you have something that you want your friend to fix, you cannot say because you have to focus on the good points. However, if you say bad thing about someone, you will automatically be bad because there is a narrative that you have to see the good parts. This doesn't happen on proposition side of the world, and we can grow each other on our side of the world. And on our side of the world, people don't have to feel the fear of like your friend being mad at you and cannot say that. So on our side, human relations are much better. So moving on to our third argument about criminals. On the opposition side of the world, because of this narrative, punishment of crime is likely to be mitigated, which will connect to a dangerous society. Two reasons why. Falsely, on their side of the world, people are likely to see the best part in the criminal, and lawyers are likely to try to see the good parts and try to defend those good parts. And secondly, because there are always some kind of good parts in all people, it is likely that the criminal's crime and punishment will be mitigated. For example, people like see the admirable story of the criminal and think that the criminal is not so bad after all. For example, if there is a person like who kill another person, the lawyers will say like he was losing his mind and being irrational out of an anger. However, he was like originally a really good person, and you should save him, and you should like save him and accept him in the society. So the punishment is likely to be mitigated, and it is and people believe in the possibility of rehabilitation for that criminal and for them to be a good citizen again. However, this is so unlikely to happen because if criminal kills someone, it is likely that the person have like some kind of like mental illnesses and so on, and it is likely that the person don't feel any like guilty about killing that person. Yes, I know it's protected time. So the person is unlikely to return to a good citizen and forget about the crime after all. However, we are giving the criminal like a false hope of like being accepted in the society, and that is automatically really bad. However, on proposition side of the world, we can have a fair decision and also see the good parts and bad parts of those criminal equally. The impact here is that because punishment is mitigated, there will be less deterrence for crime, and it is likely to connect to increase of criminals, which is likely to connect to a more dangerous society. On proposition side of the world, we can benefit the society as a whole because we are likely to give more deterrence to those people. Proud to propose.
Thank you, Speaker, for those wonderful remarks. What invites the deputy leader of opposition. Thank you.
Just to confirm that I'm both audible and visible.
Yes, you are. Ready when you are.
My pronouns are she, her, and I would like verbal POIs. And my speech will start in 3, 2, 1. This is not a debate on crime and justice. And this is what Proposition seems to think this debate is about. But let's be charitable. Prop says that during trials, when we see the best in people, criminals are instantly forgiven. They tell you that this narrative makes people abandon judgment, and this even happens even in court and in terms of law. But this is completely untrue. All we are saying is that what the criminal did is wrong, but they are humans who should be rehabilitated. They are not instantly forgiven for murder, but we will understand that they killed out of self-defense, and we can be empathetic and not criminalize and be stuck on hatred if this is the case, right? So they said that when you can't cooperate with someone, you will blame yourself. But they are missing so much mech to back this claim up. But let's be charitable once again. When you can't cooperate with someone, you accept the fact that they are trying their best and keep encouraging them. And there is no mech on why you will punish yourself when all you're doing is helping others. Because the narrative, let's move on, like, does the narrative force people to stay in toxic relationships? If someone was constantly mean to you and you see the good in them in the sense that they had a bad past and they're really tough for being through a lot, however, it doesn't mean that you don't recognize when enough is enough. 2, does the narrative mean that there is zero criticism? No, it doesn't mean it means that we're able to see more than one side, right? On our side, we keep the negative parts ourselves, but we still encourage them. And what proposition is essentially proposing is that this is just blind trust and we're just trusting people based on this narrative. But we think this is false because we still look for confirmation through their actions. Because most of the time we have already made up assumptions in our mind, like our first speaker has explained, right? For example, if you see someone with a criminal record, then you automatically think that that person shouldn't be trusted because of one thing that they did. But in that case, we don't take into account good parts and thus deprives them of second chances, etc., and overall excludes them from the society. And we think this shouldn't influence how we view them as a person, and seeing the best of them is really important for them to do so. It is not, we think that when people make these decisions, it is not only on the optimistic narrative, because we are making more informed decisions with this motion. And we would like to clarify that recognizing the best in others doesn't mean ignoring problems. Now, before I move on to my characterization, are there any POIs? No. Okay. So we think that this outlook can manifest in various ways across different aspects of both personal and social life. We think this means then that we are able to try to understand and practice empathy. And we think a lot of the times we see people negatively is because of a title or, for example, their social class. Now, moving on to my arguments. Firstly, on how this impacts individual and the society. We think that when we're seeing people, the best in people, we are encouraging people to try better as they are seen in new light. We can, one, make more informed decisions, and two, which builds more trust, which means that three, there's less likely for conflicts to happen. And overall, this leads to better relationships as a whole. We think this is important because it means that it leads to more motivation and it incentivizes people to try harder. And this helps in so many aspects in your life because you know that people aren't judgmental the moment they see you, and you're able to try harder and live up to the expectations, which contributes to a more positive environment. We think that when you see someone else in better light, this also applies to yourself, which means that you're also able to see the best in yourself. And we think this is really important in many instances, such as work settings. The mech behind this is that instead of seeing people as useless people, you're able to think that, oh, they're trying their best and we can find a way to work together. And this narrative largely applies to the less senior employees of companies, etc. When a person has been doubted for so much of their lives, they come into society with very little and not many relationships. And it also means that they're already weak in terms of mental health, etc. But on their side, when they come to society, they may be unproductive when working, and they will tell the person, and this is exactly what they think. And what happens to the individual is that they feel that they're never enough, that society will hate them forever because of something that they did. However, on our side, when the individual is told, you can do this, I can see that you're trying, and you're actively trying to embrace a growth mindset and encourage them, the individual will feel a lot more happier than what prop assumes, as they're still new to people accepting them, which means that they feel better, and this encourages them to try harder. Where you're critical of others and always have doubts about their intentions, it reduces individual happiness, which means that they will never have trust and they will feel less encouraged, which undermines their interpersonal relationships, because relationships shouldn't be based on an assumption of their background, right? We shouldn't assume some things about someone based on where they, like, for example, their social class and how they live their life. This should be about supporting other people and helping them regardless of what society has labeled them, and seeing who they are as a person, despite what they have done or what
Point of information.
Is that a POI? Yes.
Yes. When we make assumptions, we can have like a better type of like interacting with other person, because we can protect ourselves when we want to like interact with criminal. Do you think assumption is so bad?
We think that assumptions shouldn't be made because, for example, you're saying that if someone has a criminal record, we should completely we're already labeling them as someone as dangerous, right? But we don't. You can't do that in a POI. Okay, you can do that in POI, but we think that the people who are criminals have been rehabilitated, and we're seeing them not because of what they did, not because of their mistakes, but who they are as a person, right? Who cares if they interact with them? But if you support them and you actively encourage them, we think that this is able to have a more positive impact, and we don't get your POI. And three, we think that in professional workplace settings, this creates a hostile work environment where most people do not feel supported because you're labeling people of who they are and where they came from. We think this doesn't take into account that people can change and that we're not willing to look past stereotypes and prejudice, especially in cases of minorities. And we're not trying to actively understand someone, and we make up our own mind based on this information, and it is not very informed. And we think that this motion encourages us not to, because we are able to make more informed decisions and choices when it comes to judging other people. And this looks like giving people second chances and not always thinking the worst of someone. In conclusion, this is why the opposition must win the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for that wonderful remarks, and quite sorry for the interruption. Kindly keep your microphones muted. I'll invite the government whip to give their speech. Thank you.
Am I audible, Judge?
Yes, you're audible.
Thanks. I'm government whip, and I prefer she or her pronouns, and I prefer POI in Berkeley. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Team opposition misunderstand that on team proposition side of the war, people only focusing on bad points of others. However, this is not true because in our side of the house, people are likely to see other people equally, which is bad or good. So in our side of the house, people will accept more other people. And also, this narrative makes people to have inactive life by strong inferiority to others, and preventing negative mind is more important than just short-term happiness that opposition side deliver. That's why we strongly propose this motion. We have 3 clashes in this debate. The first clash point is about the recognition of ourselves, and the second clash point is relationship to others, and thirdly, I will explain our society impacts. Before that, I will clarify the characterization of this narrative and the counter narrative. On the team opposition, in this narrative, people are forced to find people's good points. This is not only the likelihood that people find good points. By this narrative, the people are forced to find other people's good points. So even if you think very bad things to others, you cannot say because of this narrative. I will give you some examples. Firstly, when people will give feedback to other people, under this narrative, people can only say good points of others because by this narrative, the people are forced to say good things to others, and people have to find good points of others. So people cannot get bad points of others, and this is very bad for people because people cannot improve themselves even they have bad points. People cannot say bad things anymore, and it will not make better feedbacks. And so we can say that this narrative will make people to not tell truth. They are likely to tell
POI.
the false to other people. This is very bad. However, in our side of no thank you. In our side of the house, in the counter narrative, people will see equally good points and bad points. And this is better because people will accept others more. So this is the end of the characterization of this narrative and the counter narrative. Onto the clash points. About the first clash point, it is a recognition of ourselves. Team opposition said that it's likely to see our good are good points, and they feel that they're accepted from society. However, this is not true. And firstly, by this narrative, people are not likely to see their own good points. This is true because people this narrative is only about other people, and they do not think about their own good points. And this is true because people know about themselves. People know about ourselves very much. Imagine that I my consciousness is always in my body, and I stay with my body always. So even I am lazy, I know that I am lazy. However, if other people are lazy, we do not know that other people are lazy because we cannot know that other people's uh how to stay at their own home. So we know that our every points are good points and are bad points. So under this narrative, people are not likely to see our own points. So people lose confidence, and people lose confidence, and people do not know our own good points. However, on our side of the house, people are this is symmetric on both sides because recognition of ourselves will not be changed. So in this clash, this is not win of team opposition. And secondly, I will explain about the relationship. Team opposition said that we will accept each other. However, this is symmetric, and also it is better in our side of the house because in our side of the house, people can accept everything, even if they have very bad points. They said that people will ignore their bad points, and people can accept the other people even they have very bad things. However, this is bad because people will feel that we are denied by society in terms of very bad points, and they only accept it in good points. However, in our side of the house, we will accept everything because we will see equally many things. So in our side of the house, it is better in terms of accepting each other. And they misunderstand that in our side of the house, people are only focusing on to people's bad points. However, this is not true. In our side of the house, people will see other people equally, and this is better. So in terms of relationship, people can keep better relationship on our side of the house. And also, as our second and first speaker told you, that people can say truth because under this narrative, people are forced to say good things. However, in our side of the house, do not under this narrative, people can say truth because people are not forced to say other people's good points. So in our side of the house, people can stay more comfortably. So in terms of relationship viewing, and about third point, society impacts. As our second speaker told you that criminals, the reputation of criminals from society will be incorrect because people will accept more than the truth. People will lose fair decision, and people will be irrational by this narrative. And this is very bad because criminal will not be punished correctly. So this society impact is very big. And they said that people will be accepted by society. However, this is not true, as I told you. So in this clash, we win. And lastly, I will compare our argument and their argument. Even when concede team opposition's argument that people will accept each other and people will be accepted by society. However, our argument is more important. Two metrics. Firstly, negative mind vs positive mind. We believe that negative mind has bigger effect to people because it will make people strong despair. Team opposition only said about positive mind that will be accepted by society, or people will be happy because people can communicate. However, this is not the effect for people's mind is not so big compared to our side of the house, because in our side of the house, people will have strong inferiority, and it is a negative effect for people's mind. A negative effect has bigger effect for people's mind. So even we concede their side's argument that have positive effect for their mind, our side is more important. And secondly, about number of people. they only focusing on the people who has difficulty to something, such as background. However, this is not important because the number of people they focusing on is very small. However, in our side of the house, we are talking about majority of people who has some minds that have inferiority or people who has negative mind. So in our side of the house, we can protect more people, and in our side of the house, more people can stay happily. So on these two metrics, our argument is superior. So that's why we have to propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for those wonderful remarks. So to invite the upward. Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, do you mind giving me like a minute to just collect my notes?
That's fine.
So I prefer verbal POIs as I will not be looking at the chat and I use your pronouns. So I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. We think that proposition has totally misunderstood their burden. As stated in the motion, they're supposed to reject the narrative that individuals should see the best in others completely. Their burden is to regret any instance of people seeing the best in anyone, not supporting a balance. They cannot have both. That is squirreling the motion. You can't you can't possibly judge everyone, but then judge them with an open mind at the same time, because judgment comes from perceived stereotypes and biases. So in my speech, I'm going to analyze the clashes of this debate and explain why opposition has won each one. I'll also be including rebuttals in these clashes. So firstly, is seeing the best in people good for mental health and individual happiness, right? Now, proposition tries to tell us that when people only see the best in others, they get upset because they think, oh, this person is so much smarter than me, and therefore they will feel inferior. Firstly, I think this is not likely to happen because that's called having an inferiority complex. The majority of people don't have this mental health issue. So what our side of the house actually looks like is people seeing nuance and balancing the belief that everyone has something to contribute without comparison. Secondly, proposition throughout this clash never really mechanized how people on their side will be happier. They never mentioned why people on their side are better off. The solution to feeling inferior and having an inferiority complex is not to change your view and start listing the areas where the person is inferior to you. The solution is not to only look at why that person is bad for comfort. It's not to say, oh, Dave might be smarter than me, but he's ugly and he's divorced or something, right? That's literally worse for one's happiness because you're not accepting the fact that even if someone is better than you, you can still be happy. When on the affirmative side, people choose to be blinded by hate, everybody becomes a narcissist who only feels good when they take down other people. But inside, they're still secretly insecure. The solution on our side is that people acknowledge that and even agree that people can be better than them, but they understand that they are okay with that. They learn to love themselves despite other people. We think that is so much healthier than proposition's alternative of them just hating everyone and still being insecure, right? So therefore, we also win that part of the debate. Proposition also asserts that because society does not allow you to say anything bad about anyone ever, even though they have hurt you profoundly, people are now hurt because they can't express their feelings and they can't warn other people. This is completely false. On our side, we believe that the coping mechanism, firstly, is not to scream at everyone and say that, oh, you're trash, you're trash, you're trash, you suck, you suck, you suck. That's not healthy at all, right? On our side, we think, and it's not just to accept that person has hurt you, but still forgive them instantly, right? On our side, there can still be responsibility and boundaries. When you have a friend that's verbally abusing you constantly and always putting you down, you don't just stay and say nothing. You set boundaries. You know when enough is enough, but you don't keep holding hate for them. The difference is that on our side, people are much better off and they are much healthier because they learn to forgive. They don't just hold this hatred constantly. Before I move on, are there any POIs?
How can people be so open-minded and forgive them?
I think that that's the narrative. You see the best in people. You be open-minded, and you see, you can acknowledge that this person is a bad friend, but you also don't hold this hatred for them and say, oh, you're a bad person. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. You don't say that. You forgive them, but you also keep a distance because you understand that you are still worth it, right? So now proposition, further down this clash, in a sad attempt to save themselves, tried to say that on their side, they can also see the good in people, right? This is not true, and literally, again, as stated in the motion, they're supposed to reject the narrative that individuals should see the best in others, right? Their burden is to regret any instance of people seeing the best in anyone. They can't argue for a balance. That's not how it works. And even if they did argue for a balance, that would be contradicting their own arguments. Meanwhile, on our side, we think that the social narrative that people should see the best in others is balanced with real reasoning. It provides nuance so that people can get along with other people and do what's best to them. They forgive and also set personal boundaries. They say that, oh, I don't want to be around you, but it's not because you're a horrible person, you're not smart, you're not anything, right? It's not coercive, we're not forcing everyone to love each other, right? They don't have to love everybody that they meet. We just think that on our side, people are less likely to hold this unfathomable wrath and hatred that is not serving them, is not doing them any good, and in fact is harming the other person even more than they deserve. So the second clash of this debate is, does seeing the best in others, seeing the best in others, the narrative, mean blind trust? Proposition's logic is seeing the best in people means completely abandoning judgment. That is not true. We think that in a world that does not have the narrative of being forgiving and having empathy, people in that world fall into the trap that proposition sets: constant hatred, self-pity, and wrath without judgment, which essentially is actually based in their hatred for themselves, which they do not actually try to resolve. We've said this lots of times with lots of mech, right? But on the other side, they have none, and instead choose to ignore and not engage with our kind of rebuttal of the definition of what seeing the best in people actually is. And they're only debating on our worst case scenario. And in another thing with blind trust, they try to argue that seeing the best in people narrative is horrible in professional environments like the workplace and trials, because they're going to completely forgive criminals because they see the best in them. But we think that on their side, they're just arguing that criminals do not deserve empathy, so they get away with nothing, right? We believe that on our side, we can still have a bit of punishment, but it's not just focused on that. It's also focused on rehabilitation, because we acknowledge that this criminal is still a human being who deserves a life, right? On our side, we don't let them get away completely. We just understand that we understand their circumstances, but acknowledge that they deserve punishment, right? But even in our worst case scenario, where we empathize with everyone, we think that it's still better than the alternative on proposition's side, because where they just go super hardcore on everyone. They don't have empathy. When someone acts in self-defense, you say no, it's still assault. They're going to sentence them. We think that's actually even worse, because more people are harmed and more things are done unjustly. Now, on our side, it does not mean that we don't mean that we're going to forgive anyone and we're just going to keep investing in a relationship that is emotionally and physically abusing, but we are recognizing and understanding why our partner is doing this. We think that it is we can't be judgmental. We can't be judgmental and tolerating and accepting at the same time, which is what proposition wants. The proposition cannot have the cake and eat it too. That's exactly what they're doing, and therefore I've never been prouder to oppose. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much, speaker, for those wonderful remarks. I'll invite the off-reply speaker.
Okay, I'd like to clarify that I'm both audible and visible.
Yes, you are.
My time will start in 3, 2, 1. Let me make this very clear for proposition. They cannot take the cake and eat every single slice of it, or nuts, as they're scrolling by saying that you can be judgmental and be tolerating and accepting at the same time. This debate is not about the criminal justice system, by the way. It was never about judges feeling sorry for the criminals and not sentencing them to jail because they have their basic laws lawyers and judges have to follow. We think that this debate is about rehabilitated people coming back to society, people who have historically been disenfranchised in workspaces and being stereotyped against. So what has proposition in this debate failed at? So they have a contradiction in their case by saying that they will judge people with an open mind, which is quite illogical, as judgment comes from preconceived stereotypes and biases. But okay, let's accept the premise, assuming that it actually makes sense to do so. We think that you can do this on our side of the house because we have people they judge people with an open mind and they ignore all the stereotypes and biases that they've had whatsoever. And we think that this fosters a more safe environment because we have people actually accepting them and supporting them so that they can do good for society. So proposition also says that it's better on their side because they can speak more freely. But this is literally against someone's moral compass to see a bully struggling with their lives and say, ew, you're weird and fat. Because like what good does this actually bring to you or other people? They are basically defending a world that no one even lives in or can live in because of this moral compass. So they're basically saying that because someone is better than me, to avoid harming my self-esteem, I will insult them and judge them, which we think that it's just completely just problematic on their side, which and we think that our side is better. All we need to do to win is to recognize why our side is what the benefits that we have on our side is more likely to happen and why this is better than anything that you have on proposition side. So we think that the intentions of people in society on our side is that they see the best in people so that they think that, oh, it's okay when somebody makes mistakes because they still have good qualities. This means that they're more welcoming and empathetic to people because, as we've said before, this motion is like targeting people who are coming into society who have just been rehabilitated. They don't have that many relationships. They're already weak in terms of mental health, etc. So we think that it's so important to treat them kindly and to be encouraging towards them because otherwise we think that they're going to be cut off from society because they think that nobody is going to help them and nobody is going to support them. So on our side, we actually have people having a growth mindset, people believing that, oh, I can actually do this, and having society support them throughout the whole way, which we think that this leads to more happiness and actual concrete change happening. So what do we think happens on prop? They're critical of others and always have like their doubts about their intentions, which 1, reduces individual happiness, 2, undermines interpersonal relationships, and 3, creates a hostile work environment. But what happens on our side? So we think that we have a more accepting society in terms of people supporting each other. We have a more supportive and collective works like environment. So we have more change because when few people feel safer, then this incentivizes more people like them who have just been rehabilitated to go into society and try to start over and have a growth mindset. We win from this because our side is more probable as we support more people on our side and we have a bigger supporting space leading to a rise of people actually going into society and getting supported. So the worst case scenario on opposition is that like people see other individuals with an optimistic view, but in rare cases, for instance, they're dangerous. But we are still able to see them as a person, and we are still able to find help for them and support them, which doesn't happen on proposition side of the house because they're basically ignoring them and not creating any change. So the best case scenario on their side is people making false assumptions about someone the moment that you meet them, such as like people not getting a job just because of a criminal record. But we think that the comparative is much better on our side. So also, I'd just like to note that they have proposition as an answer to why they can be judgmental and open-minded at the same time, which basically contradicts their case. Never been prouder to oppose.
Thank you, speaker, for those wonderful remarks. Would invite the proper reply speaker. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. To decrease mental burden to individual, and also to decrease the serious impact to society we proudly propose. Two crash points in this debate, first about for individual and the secondary about for society. I will explain one by one. First about individual. On this point, they said about because of this narrative, people are highly likely to focus their own good points. But we truly is that it's not likely to happen because more people are highly likely to focus other people's good points, right? Because we know about all of them, all of ourselves. We are highly likely to compare our bad points to their other people's good points. So this means even they can focus on their good points, they are highly likely to focus their own bad things more, bad points more, and then they will get very big serious damage for your health. So their argument is not true. On this crisis, we told you mainly two things. First about inferiority, because they will compare yourself because we will compare yourself to others more likely because of this narrative. Many people are highly likely to get inferiority by comparing yourself and by comparing yourself, even if they can focus on our good points. Because a VIP speaker career told you that because negative impact is more bigger on yourself, they're highly likely to focus those kind of inferiority. So they will get very big mental damage. And secondary, we told you that they cannot talk about bad part of others to anyone because this narrative because it is because of narrative, many people think that it's very bad to say about bad people's bad points. So this means even they have any like bad feeling to others, they cannot tell any of those kind of true feelings to others. So those kind of mental burden are highly likely to be accumulated in the long term, and many people are highly likely to be suffer in the long term. It is very serious. So about the individual, we are strongly stereo, and we can say that the mental burden is too big for many people, and it makes less confidence on yourself, and also less like feelings to try something. So this means the narrative, the impact for the new individual is too serious. So in this crash, we win in this debate. And secondly, about society. Also about society, we win because on that point they said about on our side of the house, people are highly likely to be cut off from society and it connects crime. But I think this thing is not true because they highly because on our side of the house, we also accept other people's good points too. But also we will focus about only 4 bad points too. So this means this means that be cut off from society is low likely to happen also on our side of the house. And rather on their side, it's high likely to happen those kind of cases because two things. First of all, because they cannot say any bad things, because we cannot say any like bad points of to others, we are high likely to keep distance from those kind of people who have like bad feelings. So this means rather on their side of the house, more people are highly likely to be cut off from the society. And also secondary, we are highly likely to make more criminal on their side of the house because the third point is because the second speaker Craig told you that because many like judge will focus on the good points of the criminal, they are highly likely to decrease their punishing for the criminals. It is very serious, right? Because they will decrease the punishment, the deterrence will be decreased, and the also victim feel very like bad mental damage. Feel very bad to the society. So this means on their side of the house, or rather they are highly likely to make more criminal, and it makes very big negative impact to society. So about impact to the society, we are currently win in this crisis. So we proudly propose.
Thank you very much, speaker, for those wonderful remarks, and thank you all for a very lovely and wonderful debate. It's a close round. Results are going to be announced later on. All the best, and see you in break. Panelists, I think we can join. Let's check breakout room 9 to deliberate. All the best, guys, and thank you for a good debate.